Today's session, better content creation with ChatGPT. Is that a scary enough image behind here for you all? It feels that way some days that we're in Terminator. It's coming for us. We're going to be talking about creating content with ChatGPT.
It's happening now.
Chat in general. Oh, hi, man. Excellent. So really quickly, if this is the first time you've come to one of these, me as an instructor, I'm the type of instructor who I like being interrupted. If you have questions, you can ask the questions in real time. You don't have to wait to the end to ask questions. If it makes sense for me to pop out of the presentation and go live to give a demonstration that wasn't already planned in here, I will definitely do that. Usually if somebody has a question, that question is also on the minds of someone else or multiple people who are in here, and people find that valuable. Awesome. All right. So let me just quickly, Jeff, you want to unmute yourself, Jeff? Are you there? Hey. I like to ask a couple people leading into the start, what's your relationship like with AI? Jeff?
So we have we've used a little bit of AI for certain projects we've been working on, some packaging design ideas, and as well as trying to generate, like you were talking about here, either generating content or generating components of content. We haven't bought a full seat in any of the AI apps. Because of our Google registration, we have access to Gemini, and I use that for like doing business plan layout or some general marketing. Although it as with everything, everything comes with the caveat of you get what you get, and it's up to you to figure out what it really means.
Sure.
We actually had recently our legal counsel did a brief on a specific market that we were exploring, and the first 3 paragraphs were basically, this was generated by AI, take it for a grain of salt, this is a guideline, this is not legal. So so we've been utilizing it a little bit. We're looking into either applications like Klaviyo that utilize AI to generate content for you, or whether we do it in-house on our own to create the content and do our own publications and distribution. But so we're a neophyte, but we've at least got our feet wet.
Yeah, that's great. That's a great overview of the uses of AI for sure, and some of the hangups that people have around AI. You get what you get with it, for sure. Kelly, are you in a place you can unmute? Okay, great. You want?
What was the question?
What is your experience of AI?
I love AI.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you use it for?
I use it for a lot of different things. Okay. I don't even know where to begin. I use it for a lot of different things. I'll start with personally. So last year I wrote a book, and there were some things in the book that I didn't want like public. I wrote like it was raw, and I was like, I wrote the book, but I ended up typing up, and I would take a section and say, ask ChatGPT, like, how can I put this in my book, but it not be so raw? I didn't say it like that, but I'm just kind of giving you an idea. So I use it in that way. It just kind of fine tune things. Like I learned actually from you. I input a lot of information, like my own information into it, and let it make it nice. Yeah. I've used it for church. Like I've created what do you call it? Like manuals, like not manuals, like policy and procedure type things, you know, at my church, because I like lead stuff there. So it's just like giving me a flow. I use it sometimes for social media posts. I use it a lot.
Awesome. You remind, when you first started talking, it reminded me of like, you know, the moment when you get the email that comes in, you're like, oh my God. And like you first want to like angry email back about it, and you're like, don't do that.
Right.
Then you like type that into chat, and you're like, how do you make what I'm saying right here sound nice?
I've done that. I've done that. I've done it with text messages, like
Yeah.
you know. I'm a fan of ChatGPT. And I am at Common Capital now, and when I meet with people, I talk to them about ChatGPT, and I'm like, I know ChatGPT. I can tell if you use ChatGPT for your business plan. And I said, that's not how you use it. You want to use it as a tool. You don't want to let it do all the work for you, because that's cheating. You know, I said, you can input all the information for your business plan and tell ChatGPT to make it flow better first. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm a fan of ChatGPT. I've written a children's book. I wrote a children's book, and I wrote the children's book, but I had ChatGPT create the images.
Yeah.
The children's book, but I haven't had it published yet, because I actually want somebody to draw. So the images that ChatGPT made are like the inspiration. So
Awesome.
Yeah, I use it for a lot of different. I'm a fan. I'm on mute now.
Yeah, so I love it. Like everything that we talked about today, creative inspiration, being able to help if it's getting ideas or refining ideas, marketing plans that you can use it. Although with marketing plans, it gets really technical, and you can tell like if someone's using technical language and they don't know what that even means. If they create themselves, or they're using ChatGPT to be able to do it. So there's a lot of practical applications for it. One thing that's important that we're going to get to in here is that it's called prompting. And that's how you have a conversation with ChatGPT or other AI chat tools like Gemini. It's a skill. Like anything else that you do, it takes time to get to know how to do it well. It takes testing to figure out how to do it well. And then also understanding some of the limitations and what you have to do to be able to utilize it fully. So it's not something that you can pick up day one and like, boom, you're going to be amazing at using it. It's going to get you the best results. At the best, it can get you 80% there with the things that you're working with at the best. So there's always got to, it's helping you 80%, and then you got to finesse it to get it to the finish line. All right. So we're going through practical applications, best practices, how to compose a prompt, and we're going to get into example prompts. This is something that somebody who isn't familiar with prompting, or like the architecture of prompts, doesn't realize how long prompts can get. And the longer that the prompt that you have is, the better the result you typically get out of that prompt. And you can even ask ChatGPT to create the prompt that you want, and then use that prompt too. So there's a lot of really cool ways. All right, so why ChatGPT? And I'm saying ChatGPT, but let's apply this to any AI. So if it's Gemini, ChatGPT, if it's Jasper AI, any of these different tools that are out there, we want to apply when I say ChatGPT. It's just the most popular one right now. Idea generation, drafting assistance, enhance efficiency, versatility, editing, personalization, cost effective. It's available 24/7 for you, and never directly says no to your requests. So there's a lot of benefits to using ChatGPT. And again, the more that you're able to build the skill set around it, the better that you're going to be able to utilize ChatGPT. one part of GPT that's important that a lot of people who don't use it a lot or don't have a lot of experience around it don't recognize like how you can add authenticity and a personal touch to it. So again, if we just go in and we ask it for something, it's going to create generic content that could get any business pasted on it. But if we start to dig a little bit deeper in how we're asking that question, it could be that we could say in the tone of Tony Stark from the Avengers, in the tone of Madonna, like whatever it is that we want, we can have, if we have like, oh, that figure, that's a really cool tone of voice, we could have it do that. We could explain what that tone of voice is. And then for businesses who like trying to explain your tone of voice makes your head hurt, you could give it example content to then tell you what the tone of voice is that you can use to personalize. So human touch matters, not only for the fact that it's going to build authenticity, build trust, help you to stand out, make you more relatable, but also like one of the things that happened that isn't talked about a lot with ChatGPT and the advancing of like AI chat is that we got to this place where there's a boom of content, and the boom of content is like medium grade content. Like before, entrepreneurs that are really busy, they can't write their own content. They wouldn't write their own content. They didn't have the time. Now they have access to a tool like ChatGPT. They don't have the skill set yet. They're using it. They're creating medium level content because they don't know how to add their own voice and be able to refine it and finesse it so that it really feels authentic. Create this huge influx of content, which then makes it harder to be able to stand out because there's more content than ever. Well, then algorithms figured this out and adapted. And because of that, the algorithms, just like Kelly's saying, like can spot a mile away when it is AI generated content. So there are ways that we're going to talk about how to add that personalization to the content so that we bypass, not in a inauthentic way, bypass the algorithms. Is that again, we use it where it's effective to do 80% of the work. We have 20% of the work, and everybody wins in the end out of it. So balancing AI assistance with personal voice is extremely important. And we can get really detailed in asking it. We can go, and if you have a version of chat that allows you to do live website search, you can type in the website, you can type in your own website and ask it to create the tone of voice for you. You can ask it to go to social media to do a tone of voice for you based off of yourself or a competitor. And then you can have it explain that tone of voice that you can use to personalize the content in the future. So we want to think it feels weird. It feels less weird than in the beginning, but really the businesses who are using AI effectively, they think of AI like a team member. It's another team member that they're utilizing, reaching out to, having conversations with to be able to support them with their growth. Because again, it's the team member that doesn't say no. It's a team member that is willing to learn. It may make the same mistake multiple times in a row, and you have to educate that team member, but it eventually learns it with the algorithms they have with AI. And then we want to use it to maximize our productivity. So with content creation, we can have, here's some concepts, and then we can have it open up and brainstorm all these different ideas. If we don't have certain things established in our business, which are critical, like what's our mission, what's our vision, what are our core values, which are things that are going to be important keystone pieces of content that you're going to use in social media, on your website, then you can have a conversation. You can say, like, ChatGPT, I'm trying to write my mission statement. Here's what I think. What are some questions that you can ask me to help me to develop the best mission statement? And I will ask you questions. You can answer the questions. So again, it's like a conversation with a team member. And then one thing that we'll also talk about is that one of the most effective ways to use chat is to assign a persona to chat as well. So we're assigning pretty much its job, and we're letting it know what its experience is. And when we do that, it helps it to fine tune itself. So otherwise, if you're just asking it for something, it's just thinking from a general perspective. But if we're then saying something like, all right, act as a marketing professional with expertise in salons who offer these types of services, using this tone of voice, give examples of what, and now we've just given it its job, given it its expertise, we've given it tone of voice, and we're able to do that and create content, either as calendars or the content itself, much more effectively. So it allows us to maximize our productivity. And then depending on the model that we're using, some models like ChatGPT, when you have the paid version, allows you to have different threads. So when we think about these webinars, we think about it from the perspective of the individual who's running their marketing for their business, or a marketer who's working with the business, or we could think about someone who's working with multiple businesses as well, where for the individual, you might have, you needed to write email content for you. Well, that's going to be very different than social media content for you. So each of the threads, it could have the same or similar persona, but you have a different objective and you have different expertise that you're assigning to it. So there are some really cool ways that we can utilize ChatGPT most effectively and to be more productive. This helps us to focus on the creativity. I think one of the, as being a marketer for my own business and working with hundreds of marketers, one of the places that people get lost the most is, one, what should I even do? What should I create content about? Like, no one wants to learn about this, this, and this. The answer is they do. But you get lost in, like, what should I even talk about? What does my audience even care about? And then you don't get to actually talk about your story and let people get to know you, because you get lost in, like, what can I actually talk about and what's going to work in my industry. So this can allow you, like, take the pressure off of your shoulders of, like, I got to come up with another idea. I got to spend this time. And I don't even know if this is going to work for my business or in my industry, to let it do some of that research for you and then give you the ideas and then be able to evolve over time. So allow you to focus on the creative component of it, making sure that when it's creating content, giving it anecdotes or things that represent your story as well. Those are really important. All right, so practical applications. So content ideation. So with using ChatGPT, we want to think of this as a conversation. Remember, it's a team member. So sometimes we have to get us to the best results, we might have to have back and forth with, like, we ask it for something, it gives us a response. That wasn't quite there. You explain to your best ability why it wasn't great there. It gives you a better response. But there's something else that it's not quite right. Okay, then you're going to ask it again. So knowing that it may take, 4 or 5 back and forths for it to get to the end of what you really want and that feels authentic, that's part of the journey of thinking of this as a team member for you. So know that that's normal, that you don't typically get it on the first try when you're trying to ask ChatGPT for something. You have to evolve an ideation with that. How you can have it generate headlines, titles, content for your website. And you can have it generate content calendars that incorporate blog content, social media, email marketing. And structuring articles, blog posts. You can have it write an intro paragraph. Then you can give your own input to that intro paragraph that it writes. So you could go from the ground up, be like, all right, let me just ask, Cindy, what do you do for work? What's the business that you represent?
So I work at a career center in Massachusetts, and we use ChatGPT to help our customers, our job seekers. There's several different ways that we use it, like for helping them with their resume, like putting in a job description, a job they're applying for, and then uploading their resume and helping them tailor it to fit the description more, creating cover letters. And of course, like you said, we don't rely on the ChatGPT because it's kind of makes it appear that you are using ChatGPT, and we don't want that. I also use it personally for social media when I'm creating things, and then I ask, like, I'll throw that in ChatGPT and I'll say, please put this on social media, make it sound enticing, or I want people to come to our event, and then it'll give me, a nice description, because I have a hard time with that. So we use it every day, all the time. It's my best friend.
Yeah.
And I've never taken a ChatGPT workshop or webinar, so this is good for me.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah. So the versatility to be able to use it for multiple businesses too, that's phenomenal, that you're able to create, again, different threads and then be able to have it structure that content. And I know from someone who's had his, before owning a business, had his fair share amount of resumes that he had to create. That's like, I don't know, that's one of the, like, I gotta do resume, I gotta update resume. And there's a lot of, especially when you have somebody who's supporting you with it, there can be some vulnerability around that stuff. As well. So yeah, we're gonna say something.
So actually, I just want to throw it out there. We do a webinar called Age is an Asset, and we showed people how we could actually put in a resume of an older worker, throw it in ChatGPT, and make it sound like they're a younger individual with the different wordings, etc. So, yep, just like what you said.
Yeah, that's great.
Yep.
Awesome. Enhancing existing content. So like we just said in the example of a resume, you're like, I don't know if this is the best yet. You can enhance it. It could be email communications. It could be, a book you wrote and want to have it edit the book to make sure, like, I'm not the best speller grammar wise. You can have it do that stuff for you to be really helpful. Adding SEO elements. Now, it's not a substitute for, like, a full substitute for working with an agency when it comes to search engine optimization. But because it's public knowledge of what the criteria is to be able to show up in search engines optimally, it can help to be able to define things with your site. It can do an audit of your site and let you know key areas to improve. So even if it doesn't get you like to the next level that you can with the agency, it can help you to get to that beginning level to be found, which is really important. With some of the newer models, I don't know what you all are used to using. Some of the newer models, one of the newer ones in ChatGPT is called 5.2. And some of them are getting pretty impressive with what they're able to do and the outputs they're able to have as well. So you can ask pretty complex things, like you could ask it to do a review of your website. You could have it do a review of competitors' websites. You could ask it for a comparison and give you recommendations on how to outrank your competitors. And a lot of that stuff with newer models can be really helpful. Sometimes with older models, they're still in that kind of like make it up a little bit phase where they're not citing real sources or they have to fill in the dots with it. Most of that has improved, but some of the older version free software, you can get some of that in there still. And then again, personalizing content. So you train the team member on who you are, how you want to be heard, your tone, your mission, your core values, and then you allow that to be able to generate content for you to refine. So personalizing that content can be really helpful. So best used for social media posts, email drafts, frequently asked questions. This is a big one. When it comes to SEO and when it comes to AI. So now that a lot of the AI models are using live website, you probably experience it where people, instead of going to Google, more are going to ChatGPT to ask questions and getting answers and then taking those results. So like businesses are starting to show up in ChatGPT. Blog posts that people create are showing up in ChatGPT for people. And a big part of that, one of the qualifications that's important for SEO and Chat AI are having frequently asked questions on your website. It allows you to have more robust content that's not overwhelming. So a lot of people, this is a technical term, which is an accordion, where you've probably been there where you see like a bunch of questions, and if you click on one, it opens up the answer. So it's not like this huge page you have to scroll on. That's really important for you to be able to show up in AI, and that's really important for ranking when it comes to SEO. So, sometimes businesses, like they get, because they're in it all the time, they're like, I don't even really know. Like, what are the questions that people ask? You can ask ChatGPT to come up with a list of questions that are commonly asked to your business type. And then you can see what they generate for answers. And then you can refine that and say, actually, let's answer it this way. I prefer to go down this route with this answer. Great, but can you change this? That can really be helpful for generating SEO and AI friendly content. So not only generating the questions, creating draft answers, and then allowing you to have that conversation to improve those so they feel authentic to you. Product and service descriptions. I mean, this is the thing that for a business that has a lot of products, it's annoying as heck is having to create a unique description for every product, because that's what you need to do for those products to show up in search engine results. So it can be really helpful for you. There are certain platforms that have built-in AI for you now. So like Squarespace has AI built into it, and Shopify in certain areas has AI built into it. So it may not be as powerful as the newest models, but it's typically good enough, especially when you give it the context that you want to be able to generate it. Blog posts and articles, landing page copy, policies and handbooks, ad copy, webinar scripts, content calendars. This is really at the core of what this is going to be best for you to be able to use if you're using it inside of ChatGPT. And again, it does not say it in here, but editing, anything that has to do with editing content, reviewing content, that can be really helpful. All right, best practices. So we want to be as clear and specific as possible. The newer models, get when we use regular tone with things, and they're starting to, they're getting more of how we structure sentences, or if we're not as clear, they get it better than they used to. the more that we can be clear about things like what do we want, what are the deliverables that we want out of it for them. And we can even ask certain things like, can you create charts? And you'll be surprised. Like some of the models like ChatGPT will create a chart for you. So you can say, all right, create a chart with 3 columns, and this column has this column has this column has that. You could have it create budgets and calculate stuff for you and recalculate if things have changed and copy and paste that, or have it go right to and connect directly to Google. So you could have that like in a Google Doc automatically for you. So there's some really cool ways that you can utilize it. Again, we want to paint a picture of what we need, and we have to define what the ideal outcome is that we're going to get out of it. So if that's give me a summary, then write 3 paragraphs, then create a chart and our table, and the table column 1 has this, column 2 has this, column 3 has this, have a total calculation in the end, and find on my website where any of the other posts could get linked directly to this. So like you could ask for those things specifically, and then boom, it's going to create all of that stuff for you. So the more we give it for context, and the better when we come to clear and specific outcomes we want, the better we're going to get for a result. Edit, edit, edit. This is kind of like your test in here, is that it's learning. So it's not going to get it right the first time. You have to respond to it, and then it gets better. There's a couple nuances to ChatGPT and other AI that you may have learned or may have not yet. That any of you heard of the M dash? Yeah, Kelly. It's like in AI content, one of like the to tell it. Yeah, this has that long like line that it's created in that content, and that's like an indicator that most people don't write in that fashion with that long like dash that is in the middle of content. And you see that, it's a good indicator that it's created by AI. And that's because, surprisingly, in a lot of the history of writing that these models are trained on, M dashes were used. And so the model believes that we use M dashes in our writing. So that's one of those things that when we get to the newer models, it gets it. Older models, you can ask it all day and it doesn't get it. You'd be like, take the M dash out, and the M dash will appear again, because it just thinks that's the fundamentals of writing. So like some of these things, well, yeah.
Does that happen in the 5.2 model?
Like you can ask it to take it out in the 5.2 model. Yep. Okay. And then, so like little nuances like that will pop up. One thing that it has trouble with is, which it pretty much solves in the newest model of ChatGPT, is asking for a certain amount of characters. It doesn't get it. Because it doesn't think of like each letter as a character and a space as a character. So like for social media content, like if we're doing something for Threads, or we're doing something for X, we're going to say like, all right, we want it in 120 characters or less, and it's just not going to get it. It's going to create it in way more than we need or way less than we need. Like it just doesn't understand it. So these are some of the nuances that newer models do figure out and accommodate for, that you get to know that pop up where it's never 100%, 80% at its best. And even though you have to go and edit some things, and that's a personal context, you save 80% of the time that you would have if you had to try to create it on your own. Maintain your voice. So part of what you need to do, and this isn't just for social media content, but you have, when it comes to content on websites now, there has to be somewhere where you have an anecdote. Like they actually look for this. Now, the search engines look to see that there's an anecdote, not antidote, although it could be an anecdote that shows that it wasn't written by AI. So that's a place where you get to talk about your personal experience around whatever that topic is. You could tell a little story in it, and you can have that story. You can give it to ChatGPT to weave into your blog article or on that page. And then that clears you from the issue that the search engines are looking for, the content that looks like it's generated by AI. So having that personal anecdote, whether you manually in the editing process add that in there, or you create that anecdote and then tell ChatGPT to add that anecdote somewhere in that content, that's going to help you. And whatever algorithm is looking at it, look at it as new content and content created by a user versus AI. So that personal stories, anything that reflects your experience, perspective, and knowledge. And then again, setting realistic expectations that it's not going to do all of it for you, and that you have to have back and forth conversation and just think of it as a team member. That sets up people for success. I think in the beginning, because of it exploding and everybody's hearing about it, and it is really cool, and it's still really cool in the beginning, but people were getting really frustrated that it wasn't getting them better results. And part of that was, the AI was learning, and part of that was that it takes time to edit and takes time to build the skill set around communicating effectively with AI. So we say this because it's not a bad thing to do, but technically the way that AI is built is that every time it generates something, it generates it uniquely. So it's not, it uses things as inspiration, but if you do the same prompt twice in a row, it's going to give you a completely different response in there. So what that means is that you shouldn't have to worry about plagiarism when it comes to, I'd say, the more popular AIs out there that are using their intuitive engines for it. You shouldn't have to worry about it. If you are a person who's overly worried, you can always copy and do paste it in as a free plagiarism check at Grammarly. But I always find it, I think in the beginning, I found it really interesting that it would always come up with a different response. Okay. So we're getting into the how to compose a prompt. We're becoming prompt architects right now. So where should we begin? We're going to write a 1 to 2 sentence that describes the project, the purpose, intended, the audience, the individual output you need to generate. So we have a project description. So we can see in here, create a comprehensive content strategy for empowered digital marketing, focusing specifically on social media and email marketing. In here, audience, we need detailed social media plan. So this is where we begin, which means we keep building on top of that. Now we're going to assign it the role. So assume the role of a digital marketing strategist with expertise in social media and email marketing. Provide insights and recommendations based on industry best practices. So when you do this, so first we assign it, and then we give it some direction in here, but when we go the next step in here, and then I'd even advocate going further than this, provide insights and recommendations based on industry best practices, then it requires it to do research ahead of like formulating its persona. So instead of just generally pulling things, which it can pull not the most reputable information in there as it's creating. We're getting more specific industry best practices, what we're looking for. That's going to help us when it comes to that persona most. Kelly, did you have something? No? Okay. All right. So project context, we assign a role, providing context to help ChatGPT aim to help small businesses leverage digital tools to grow their customer base. The project is driven by the need to create engaging content that resonates with target audience and encourages interaction and conversations. So for imagining, like at this point, we're like 3 paragraphs in for this prompt that we're looking to generate. We have output specifications. So this is just a layer on what we just saw before. So previously we said we want, all right, create content for social media and email marketing, but we didn't say what platforms we wanted to create for. So now it's just creating general content. We're getting in here, include a monthly calendar with post ideas, suggested platforms, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and themes for engagement. The email marketing, 3 campaign theme, goals, target segments, and outlines for each email in here. And I would even go further than when we like, how to say it. It's not a bad idea to be polite to chat, but the thing that sometimes like is a double-edged sword is the way you phrase things. So like I know with certain chat platforms that if you use the word please, chat hears that as that's a guideline for what they want. They're not telling me I need to do it that way. So then it's going to incorporate some creativity in there that's outside of your guidelines. So like in here, suggested platforms, like that suggested word allows it to paint a little bit outside those guidelines in here. So that's where we get to like really clear and succinct and specific. So like instead of suggestion, just being here are the platforms that we want to do and themes for engagement. We can have the tone should be friendly, professional, and motivating. We can have it review a website. We can have review content to be able to use that and replicate that tone for us as well. So I've seen it where you have another long paragraph where you could put example content that it's using to extract that tone for in this prompt too. So more specific we get, the better. And then I'm sure that you can get a feel that we can be even more specific. We could say Instagram stories, Instagram Reels ideas. And now like it's layering on top of that, which is helpful for us because that's what we wanted in the end. And it's not going to be able to assume that.
Hey, Jamie.
Yeah.
So looking at this, and I don't have this, this isn't any part of the AI exploration we've done, but is it possible to, if you're trying to give it references like you were just saying, your website, your blogs, and your content, can it be as diverse as saying, look for where Outcast Lures is mentioned on TikTok or on Instagram, and use that to learn some of the what our audience response and subject matter interest is? Or is that, I mean, I'm not saying it can't do the math, I'm sure it can, but have you done anything like to say, look for my brand across this social media platform from user generated content to understand what our audience is looking for information, or what the field connects with them?
Yes, absolutely. Another thing that you can do that's really helpful is you can go and you can put in the names of competitors, and then you can have it review all of their reviews and then give you the sentiment of what your competitors, like the negative things that people are saying about it and opportunities that you have to show that you're different and unique versus competitors. So as long as it's public information and doesn't require a login, you can ask. And again, it depends on the model that you're using. I believe Gemini allows you to get real-time data, and ChatGPT in the paid model will allow you to get real-time data. The free model, I think you have to do like an extension for Chrome, and then it will allow you to do that. So yeah, as long as it's public data and it can go live to a website, you can ask it for those specifics. And if you're not sure, you can always ask the chat itself, like, can you view live content? And then it will tell you if it's able to view live content or not out of it. But yeah, that can be really helpful. And then you can even have it, like you can put in URLs if you want to be even more specific for businesses, to ask it for more specific stuff. All right, and then rules and constraints. So specific outputs can further aid. What are you looking to get out of this? Avoid suggesting blog posts or video content. Focus solely on social media, email marketing. Ensure that all recommendations align with best practices for small businesses. And do not exceed a total of 1,500 words. So when it gets into that word, we talked about some of the different chat platforms don't understand words effectively. What they do interpret, I wonder if it's in here. It's in here somewhere. Maybe I even skipped over it and didn't realize it. But there's another term called tokens. That's what that chat represents as like words, and like each token is like between 1 and 3 words. So like you can ask it tokens wise, and that can help as well. But if you need it to be in a certain range, you have to do a little bit of testing with asking it for tokens, versus if you ask it for words, it's never going to get it close enough for you. So you can be like, all right, do this in 50 tokens. And then you'll be like, okay, 50 tokens generated 102 words. Okay, I need it, or characters, I needed it under 100. So do it in 12 tokens, and then see, and you can get a feel for what you have to ask for in tokens. But that's like the base language of how they would represent characters, is the word tokens. Giving ChatGPT examples of the output. So if you're looking for something very specific, if you like a competitor and how they position things, or like the giveaway idea that they had, you can just copy and paste it in and give it an example of what you feel is a good response. So now it's doing less guesswork, and it can focus more on what you want that output to be in the end. You can give it, again, your previous stuff if you want to learn about your tone. If you want to learn about a specific topic, you can have it review your, I think it's in general good if you're creating content for yourself to have it review your content. So have it review your website so it gets to know you, your business, what you offer. Have it review social platforms for you. So then it's an informed chat team member on what you actually do as a business. All right, so we can see this is one that's like a pretty long paragraph prompt that would be like a baseline for what you would be creating to iterate with: content strategy, social media, small businesses, plan, ideas, targets, outlines, assume the role, what we do, hoping to do, the tone, avoid this, keep it to that, include a sample like this. So this, if you break it down, is definitely more specific and robust than we usually see people who are generating on their own, who haven't built up that skill set. But again, we can get even further. We can ask it for the platforms. We can ask it for, we need a 3 email series for welcoming people. We could ask it for any of that stuff in here. We can ask it to do research ahead of creating the result for us as well. Yeah, and we can see in, for instance, of that prompt, concise, detailed content strategy. You can see social and email content, brand mission, core audience, and we can keep and see all of the, let's see. It continues with content pillars. And I think one cool thing that I like that like starts to get in that technical realm when it comes to these chat engines is that it does, when you give it the persona of an expert, it will to some degree educate you on certain things. So like a marketing concept, content pillars, that's really important as we're thinking about like the pillars of the content that's we're always going to be using and always going to be part and core of who we are. It can help to see those things. It can help to keep things aligned with what a marketing plan, a content marketing plan would execute with. So, and sometimes you'll get things like, it'll say, you need to make sure you optimize your NAP. And you're like, what the hell is NAP? And it's totally fair for you to ask it questions and say, hey, what is this, and this, and this? So that it can educate you along the way, because it will use fundamental and it will use advanced marketing concepts, which are good if you know what they are and how to actually execute them. So you can actually ask it to give you a plan to execute, and there are mixed results on that. So you can see, keep going, keep going. I think you all have some experience to know, like, this is one of the outcomes that you can see with it. And then we can imagine that if we had given it even more personal context to what we wanted, how this is going to be very specific for our brand in the future. And you can even see like the problem, solution, proof. So it uses those marketing concepts in here and reinforces those marketing concepts, which are core to being able to educate people. And then newer models will also ask you, I could also do this for you too. And then this is where you can review and have that conversation back on what you actually wanted. Okay, yeah, this is the tokens one. There we go. Okay, token is typically 4 characters or 3/4 of a word in English. So as your characters, 30 characters, roughly 20, 25 words, enough for a sentence or two. So you can use this as a guideline if when you put in characters, it's not getting you there. You can use tokens instead. That 20 to 25 words is what you're getting out of it, or 4 characters. You can ask it. So ask for no M dashes. It loves M dashes. Again, we said some other platforms won't figure it out, but newer models will do that. You can add in your response output simple ASC 1 characters and emojis only. Do not use hyphens or M dashes. That could be a way that you're working around it. And then you see the American Standard Code for informational exchange interchange that can help to circumvent some of the core learning that it did. So like M dashes, which are part of how it learned, by calling out a certain standard, you can circumvent M dashes even though it's part of its core training. So YouTube video ideas. So pretend you're a content creator and strategist specializing in long form YouTube content for this business type. Create number of compelling YouTube videos for company focusing on topic. Each idea should include a catchy title, a brief 1 or 2 sentence description of the video's content and explanation that align with a company's brand and target. Idea should vary in format. And these are fill in the blank. One thing that's helpful as you're exploring and really refining your tone is that you can ask it for multiple of the same thing. So, all right, I want you to create 3 different lists of, and then you can have, for this list, here's your theme. For this list, here's your theme. This list, here's your theme. And then you can start to figure out, oh, actually, I like this theme a lot. Okay, let me go with that instead. So ask it for more examples in the beginning, and then you can, sometimes when you like go back and forth and iterate, like you feel like you got better, but it wasn't the right thing. But when you're adding the creative component where you're seeing a bunch of different examples, that can sometimes hone you in faster, seeing that, be like, oh yeah, that's where I was going with this. That's what I really want, instead of having to do that in reverse. Email sequence, craft a 3 email welcome sequence for new subscribers. And add copy for Google Ads. You can use this. It has a tough time with Google Ads in general. I don't know if you're all familiar with Google Ads, but there's a lot of different components that go into Google Ads. Like you have to have keywords, you have to have like short descriptions, long descriptions. We have to have titles that you're putting in there as well. And then there's all these other things, site links that go into. So like this can help you like get a general sense of the direction of where you want for it. Luckily, Google does have AI built into generating Google Ads. And it's good. It's better than a business who doesn't have experience trying to create it on their own, and it will guide people through the process of creating their own Google Ads. Customer feedback survey is going to be really helpful. So a lot of times we kind of get stuck in like, what are the most important questions to ask? And then we end up with like too many questions. And then not enough people fill out this because like we're sometimes when we're in it every day, we can't see outside of that. And this can be really helpful to develop that short 5-question satisfaction survey that asks the right questions that are getting us to what we actually are looking for feedback. Instagram Reel script. So if we're looking, okay, gave me some ideas of things, but I needed to do further, like how would I actually create this video? You can ask it to with a script. You can ask it for some direction on the creative and how you would position things as well. Landing page copy, product features list that you can add in there. And so these are just different ways that we can take content and then add in our own information, or even ask it. Anything that we're doing, you can always ask it. Ask me questions that would help you to create the best content for me. Jeff?
Yeah, so looking at, like even the previous panel with like writing a script for a video or for an ad, is this assuming that, somehow ChatGPT knows specifically I'm talking about, Outcast Lure and this specific style of metal lip Danny Swimmer in this specific color? Like, how can I, how detailed, or what are the best ways to input those details? Because like a lot of stuff, we started recently, like I said, with some packaging design, and the AI just generated some very non-specific, not our brand, not our information. Like, hey, here's a design on a box, and here's the 5 angles to look at the box. It's like, okay, great, but I need to have this logo, I need to have this specific product information, and it ended up being just an iteration nightmare of like every time we'd run in some new prompt, you'd get a completely different, erroneous feedback. So I think what I would, looking at like if we're going to create how-to videos, And if we're, our intent maybe is to generate animation as opposed to live videos, and we'd like to have a continuation of the same character who's the presenter for that series. And like what would be the methodology to sort of establish, okay, here's the character who's going to be doing all these animated videos. This is the subject matter. This is what we assume about that individual's expertise and understanding. This is what their accent is. Are they from the South? Are they from the Midwest? Can we create videos that are like speak specifically in those tonalities? So we're trying to look at like how do we create that diversity of almost a library of videos, but making sure that each one of them doesn't reference either a product or service we don't have or don't intend to carry, and also maybe calls out some very specific details in the Q&A element of the videos we're creating. Like I want to say, okay, when you get this product, you need to open the package and remove this packaging material. We want to be able to generate those things with pretty consistent feel and form, but also have all the content be truly relevant and exacting to our our needs. Is that just going to be more prompts, and iterations? Can I say save everything you've done except this element? Remove the the fern and the brass bowl in the background, and never include that sort of content in the video. It's like, is that the reality, or is that something a paid level up from where we'd enter in?
Yeah, so when it comes to generating the visual component of it, it's not as it's behind in comparison to what it does for written. So it's going to be able to be better. Like if you're asking things like the script in here and you can give it even more details, it's going to be better with the outcome. Thank you, Emil. When it comes to video content, depending on the video platform you're using, if it's animation or creating images for you, there's such a wide range. Google's latest model for video, I think it's V3 or the third model, is like very good and will allow you to be able to keep characters. Yeah, we'll have the resources on the website. Yep, with the recording in it. So it'll allow you to keep characters and use those characters again and again in the future. That does require a paid account if you have a Google Workspace, or you have to upgrade to that to be able to have access to it. So it depends on the platform, but yes, you have to be more specific, and there's going to be different language you use. Like it could be like the background, the backdrop, it can be in the style of, if you have some of the newer models that can actually see things, like you can use and you can upload the image of the product, and then you can do the prompt and say, we want it to look like this. Some of them, one that's really good for image is called Nano Banana. Yeah, and that one's really good for, you give it a couple different things and then ask it to create something for you from those couple things that can, yeah. But it's more of a testing process right now for the visuals because they're just not at the same level when it comes to the writing.
Yeah, I figured I can put my mic on because I think I'm gonna have a private session with you now.
Yeah.
And we don't have to go last long. I could stand to do some other stuff, but if you have other parts you want to roll through, again, I didn't mean to create this long ass question that scared everyone off, but
no, I think it's just timing. I think people are like, yeah, I gotta yeah, we're just gonna talk about lead magnet design. That's important for a lot of businesses who are trying to generate leads, especially service-based businesses. Infographic ideation and outlining, blog post ideas, Facebook post. There's a lot of different ways that we can create content, and we can even see, here's an example of what we would use and could go live to be able to create that content in the future. All right, so this concludes the presentation side of our webinar today.